part of my degree was in, it's holistic health, all different things with anatomy, physiology, chemistry, biology. Part of it that wasn't required though was psychology, but I had to take so many credits. It's like, well, what's a more relative topic than psychology when it comes to human behavior of people not wanting to take care of themselves? Or, people that do want to take care of themselves. What makes the difference? So I took quite a few of the psychology courses because human behavior is very relative to what we're doing with all of this stuff, right? Today's discussion was going to be a bit more on stress and what types of stress and why stress is good or bad and how that can affect and manifest into headaches. I have a lot of experience with all these topics, so it's not like, I went to college for the last 4 years. I'm 60 years old. These were things that I've been learning all throughout my life. And the college degree just kind of helped tie it up and put a couple letters after my name that it's like, oh, I already was doing some of the same stuff. But what it did do is get me in the room with these topics, some of the psychological topics and physiological processes that our bodies encounter. And headaches I've been dealing with since I was a kid. It's like you never get rid of them, it seems. If you have some chronic health issue of some sort, headaches, like good chance you're going to have them. It's a hereditary thing in our family. So let's back up over to the other side here. Stress. People hear stress, it's one of the more current buzzwords these days. It's always a bad thing. Oh, you got stress, you got stress. Well, what that type of stress, that the bad stress is the distress. So I don't have my script, I don't have a teleprompter, folks. I wing it from my memory, and this is my little cheat sheet to kind of keep us on track. But if you have questions or comments, something you want to interject, please do so. This isn't just Jim talking, this is us discussing. Hey there, come on in, we just got started. So most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with distress. Usually that's kind of like a bad thing. Oh my gosh, you're in distress, something bad's happened, car accident, illness, injury, something along those lines. Some stress we actually need. And that would be what's called eustress. And that's the stress of maybe going to school, coming here, trying something that's a little bit different out of your comfort zone, taking on a hobby. I got a ton of friends right now that are taking on driving motorcycles in their 60s, 70s, mid 70s, they're starting to drive motorcycles. I'm like, I don't know about that hobby. I give them credit for trying something different. It's good. But a lot of them are also taking up musical instruments. They find that, trying to do something with mind or hand-eye coordination and their mind together, it's very good for mental development. You want to keep learning as you keep getting older. So distress, not so good. Eustress is stress that we take on, whether it's from trying something new, learning. You got the grandkids for an afternoon. It's like, oh, I don't know what I asked for. Now the kids are climbing the walls, right? But it's a good thing. You gain from eustress. Hermetic stress is what we do in my classes. That's Tai Chi, Qigong. It's very strategic. You want to make your body go into these positions. It's a little bit stressful trying to figure it out. Maybe your body's not responding the way you like it to. You go to the gym, you encountered some issues going to the gym. It's like, oh, I want to get better. I want to get stronger going to the gym, but I'm getting injured or I'm so sore that I can't walk the next day. Either way, that's still hermetic stress. It's something you chose to take on. So these two here, eustress, hermetic stress, generally considered good. I'll put a plus sign by it. And it's also called strategic trauma, strategic stress, because again, you're choosing it for a reason. Distress, that comes for free. You don't ask for it. You don't want it. It shows up at your door. You don't want it. So all of these things, stress, all the different ways that it manifests itself, we know this. It can present itself in physical ailments, headaches, anxiety, depression, stomach issues, digestive issues. Good thing to be able to manage your stress. How do we manage our stress? Everybody's got a different way of doing it. We call that coping mechanisms. How do you deal with stress? Some people go for walks, go swimming, cooking. Preparing meals is a good way for some people to manage their stress. I prefer to go the route of exercise. Physical exercise is a great way to manage stress, whether it's Qigong, Tai Chi, the gym, working out, swimming. Those are all different ways to do it. So is anybody familiar with these abbreviations here? CNS or PSN? Now, if it was just out of the blue, it could be, you know, abbreviation for anything, but we're talking about stress. So what these are is the parasympathetic nervous system, PSN, and the sympathetic nervous system. Now you know what I'm talking about, right? Flight or fight, rest and digest. These are the two different main mechanisms that our body manages stress. So if that door opens right now and someone flies in here and slams the door and we hear the music from the other room, we're a little bit shocked. We're taken off guard for a second or two, right? And then we realize it's maybe not a big deal. And it's like, oh, it's just Bob coming in late. And your nervous system kind of calms down. So we kind of go between those two often. The parasympathetic nervous system, hard for some people to like remember which is which, is the one where you're more relaxed. Hopefully you're all relaxed right now. Nobody should be stressed sitting in a chair. We're chilling out, listening to Jim talk about this stuff, right? In a real situation, we get over here. That's when the door slams open and you get stunned. Your eyes bulge. Your pupils will get really big. And that has to do with your field of focus, your depth of field. It's like, oh my gosh, I gotta be able to see what's going on over there. So your eyes adjust. And then your mouth gets dry. You're like, your lungs start pumping harder, your heart rate increases, and all these mechanisms click in. Why is this a big deal? It's because if you stay in that state of stress, it starts to wear on your body. So going in and out of that throughout the course of the day, you might do it, I don't know, I'm just guessing, say 10, 15 times, where you're going from being really relaxed to being a little bit upset. You know, turn on the television, turn on a news channel. Guaranteed you're probably gonna get a little upset, right? Get in the car, go for a ride, someone cuts you off or stops abruptly, you're probably gonna get a little bit upset. And those are all different things that kind of get you into that, you know, agitated mode. So if you stay in that agitated mode too much, we end up doing this thing here, GAS. Anybody got gas? No. I don't want to know the answer to that. Some of you grab the sheet. It stands for General Adaptation Syndrome. And there's this little graph here. And what it represents is that when we start to stay in a stressed state, you first kind of get alarmed. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, the guy slammed on the brakes. I almost got into an accident. So you're aware and you're alarmed. Your guard is up. Your eyebrows go up. Your eyes tense. That starts that whole mechanism with the sympathetic nervous system. So then what happens next is, over a period of time, if this keeps happening, you go from just being alarmed and aware of it to resisting it. It's like, I'm kind of getting tired of people screaming at me at work or at the house. You know, my spouse doesn't like my meal. I kind of get upset about it, but I don't say anything. So then after a while, it goes from you being not much stress to a lot of stress, and then you get exhausted. And it's like you get so exhausted from the stress that you just kind of give into it. It's like, I can't fight it anymore. You know, I'm just tired of this. So then your body starts to look at this spot over here. The exhaustion is kind of like the new norm. And then every time it comes up, that's the new norm. You just kind of get used to it. So hopefully this makes some sense what's happening. These are all physiological processes that your blood chemistry keeps going up and down and spiking. So how do we relieve this? Eventually we will get to it at the bottom over on this side. So we go from the nervous system being all upset, not a whack, to you starting to get used to this stress where your body's always in a state stress, to it manifesting in the physical problems. So I'm just guessing. I know most of you are younger than me in the room right here by at least a few years. Hey there. I'm 60. I'm 60. I turned 60 this year. So most of us in general will have health issues as we keep getting older. It's just kind of what we paid for, we signed up for, right? So headaches is a manifestation of stress. Could be gastrointestinal issues, nervousness, depression, anxiety, all those different things, right? So how do we get headaches? All of these I am familiar with, not just from studying them or writing them. Environmental can be from allergies. You know, right now it's pollen season, right? We live in Florida. It's always pollen season. It's just a different pollen at different times of the year. So I find during the winter, that's usually the worst time for me with the allergies. Summer's worse for other people. So what happens is, you know, we get the afternoon showers, washes all the pollen out of the air, all the dust. you're good for a day or so, and then all the plants again sprout and blossom, and they pump more pollen into the air, and then the cycle continues until it rains again. So that's why summer's bad for a lot of people. How do we counter allergy headaches? Anybody have methods other than taking Nasacort, or what's the other one? What's the popular one for sinus stuff? I can't remember at the top of my head. Used to be a prescription, now you get it over the counter. Claritin, Nasacort, Zytec, I think. So I took these for a while, and they start to wreak havoc on your digestive system after a while. And for me, I started to get jittery from any one of them. And I was good with them for a while, and then 6 months go by, and then it's like the next thing, it starts up. So I was like, oh, try this prescription. So I got off all that stuff. Went back to using herbs. I've learned a lot about herbs over the years. I'm not a medical genius, I'm not a herbal scientist, but I got my little kit. And I did my research from my studies and that. I came up with 8 different ones that aren't just for allergies, but they're for other things too. And you've heard of all these. These are all the safe ones that people, for the most part, will use without any kind of side effects. Ginger root, licorice root, skullcap, echinacea and golden seal, ginkgo, ashwagandha, astragalus, and nettle leaf. Any of those sound familiar? People heard of them? So those are all good ones, because what they do is they help diminish inflammation and break down mucus. And mucus is a byproduct of inflammation. So this is another herb that you inhale it. It's with a dropper. And it's got, I think it's olive oil, eucalyptus, and a couple other things. It's an Ayurveda recipe. And what that does is it collects the pollen in your nasal system.
Are they prescriptions?
No. Get that over the counter. You probably got to get it from Amazon or from a health food store. Any of those little bottles, they're about $10 each, and they'll last me a month to 2 months. So it's cheaper than Claritin and Zytec and all those.
There's a good little place down on the corner of Bumby and Colonial. It's a nice little grocery store, and inside of that grocery store they have all of these medications.
Yeah, they're great.
Pharmacy.
So I would recommend, if you're interested in doing that route for sinus or allergies from the environment, that's a good option. It might be cheaper, side effects are nothing, and you'll get other benefits from it. Ginger, while it's good for with inflammation and that with the nostrils, it's also good for stomach issues. It helps your digestion. It calms you if you're going to go on a flight. Take a little bit of ginger, a capsule, or ginger candies, or the extract. Ginger is really good for that. What's the other one? Astragalus. That helps your immune system. Golden seal, echinacea, and astragalus are all for helping your immune system. So if you find yourself certain times of the year, you're getting cold more often, you're feeling sluggish, those are great ones for that.
What's turmeric? Is that more inflammation, or?
Yes, turmeric and ginger in the same family as far as taking them for stomach issues and that. Yep. They work together. Also, if you're going to get turmeric, a lot of times they'll have black pepper. Black pepper in the capsules. You don't taste it because you just swallow it. But black pepper helps you assimilate the turmeric, the chemicals in turmeric, better into the system. If you just get turmeric on its own, it's not as easily assimilated, or so I've read and studied. Those are really good. There's other ones. I just picked 8 of them that I use regularly, and I know those work. Ashwagandha is another one. Ashwagandha helps you sleep better. It helps you be a little calmer instead of you having to take a drink or a sedative or something. Ashwagandha is an herb that'll help that.
Decide what dose? 2 drops, 5 drops?
Usually it's by the millimeter, and the dropper has it graduated out. So it'll be like half of a dropper full, or a full dropper full might be like one milliliter.
Are there directions on the bottle?
Yeah.
The directions, how would you know how many drops to take?
It'll say on there, it'll say, 1 dropper, you put in a glass of water 1 to 2 times a day. So again, you're not gonna overdose on it. It's not gonna give you oh my gosh, I took too much of it, but you wanna use the proper amount. And for most of them,
These are all available in a tablet form.
they're in tablets, and they'll tell you, 1 to 2 tablets once a day, 1 to 2 tablets twice a day, whatever, the dosage might be. Most of them are kind of calibrated to be in that kind of dosage. All the ones that are in those 2-ounce bottles, they're usually calibrated, the dilution, so that you're getting 1 dropper full that's what the dosage would be.
Tablet.
I'm sorry?
Why not take tablets?
Just preference. Liquid digests faster. Tablets takes longer for them to break down. If you're going to jump on a plane and you know you're not going to be on a plane for another 2 hours with waiting, take the capsules. Because by the time the capsules break down and get into your blood system, you know, it'll be a while. Whereas if I'm going to go in a car right now, and I know I'm taking a drive with somebody that drives jerky all over the road, you know, it's like, oh, I take the liquid ones now. So anyway, I wanted to move on from that, but does anybody have any questions on the herbal stuff? A lot of that, you just got to do a little bit of the research on your own. Some of the other herbs that are out there, you got to be careful because they do have side effects if you combine them with other drugs that you might be taking. So that's an issue.
I've heard melatonin's not that good for you. Is that true? Do you know?
Melatonin is good. So if you have problems sleeping, I like to take it so that I sleep more sound. It's not that I have problems sleeping. I just don't sleep as sound as I used to.
So it's okay to take.
So I'll take melatonin occasionally. They say that if you take it too much, too regularly, you start to build up an immunity to it, so it doesn't help you as much. So I've never heard anything bad coming from melatonin on a regular basis in the dosage. You know, if some people are going to load up on it, I think you know, anything, it's the dosage. You take too much, you're going to have some problems. I'm not a pharmacist. That's my daughter. She's trained to become a pharmacist. But I know enough of what I have done with the herbs that I have used and what I have studied.
September issue of Consumer Report magazine has a long article on the vitamin industry and the dietary supplement industry on quality issues.
Yep.
And also, some of the side effects such as heavy metals in some of these products. Yeah.
You got to find the companies that are more reputable, that, you know, you read the reviews, read other studies if you can find them. It's something that's not as regulated as pharmacy, so there's not always the same consistency with it. And that's why I've chosen the ones that I know that are very popular and very accessible. If I don't get the ginger and extract, I'll go to the grocery store and get the ginger direct and make my own ginger tea. We've been doing that for years. By the way, Dirk is here. He's one of my best friends. He lives out in California. He's staying with me for a couple weeks. Him and me started this whole journey when we were in our teens, and we ended up in different places, a little bit different curriculum, but basically it's all about, you know, staying healthy and how to maintain it. A lot of it is through Eastern philosophy. So, yeah, herbs, do some research on it. There's some really good ones out there. You got to find the ones that work for you. But those are the 8 that I found work really good for allergies. And then the how do you pronounce it, NASA oil. You put it in my nose before I go to bed at night, and it collects the pollen, gets stuck in the olive oil and eucalyptus instead of just in the mucous membranes. And it works. All these things do work well. Food, drugs, alcohol. That's another way that you can give yourself a headache. It's like, do you want to give yourself a headache? You know, oh, great, let's do that. You know, no, usually it's the after effect of you not paying attention to what's going on. You go to a party, maybe you know, let's go with the food. You know, you ate too much of the sugar at the table, and that'll trigger a headache for some people, too much sugar. Drugs, obviously, you know, I'm not an expert in that area, but certain drugs will cause you to have side effects with headaches. Too much alcohol, usually that's like the next day, right? You know, a hangover. So you can make yourself, you know, kind of get one if you really wanted to. I don't think we want us to happen. So the way that I would get a headache from food would be the sweets. That had been my trigger. I went for a few years with really no sugar at all, and somebody came to the house for a little get together we had, and they had some cookies, sugar cookies, right? And they're sitting on the counter, and the smell, I was so sensitive to the smell that I actually got a headache within a few minutes of having the smell. It was just so strong because I was so removed from it. So I don't have that strict of a sugar diet right now, but you know, I'm not popping sugar stuff and pastries and cookies all the time. It's just that was the extreme at that time. Migraines, I think this has been hereditary in my family. My mom's had them, my sister, I've had them, and now my kids have had them periodically. What I have found, does anybody have migraine issues?
I used to.
Used to. A lot of times with women, it's hormonal. It's connected to hormones at different periods in your life. In my case, I had to keep a journal for a few years because it was so inconsistent. My mother would get them almost like on a weekly basis. Yeah, that bad. My sister and brother, a couple times a year maybe. So I knew it was coming. And then mine were like really infrequent. I get one a year 5 years would go by, I wouldn't have one, and then I'd get 2 in the next year or so. So it was like very inconsistent where I wasn't like keeping track of it. So once I started to realize that, I did start keeping a log, what time of day, what I was doing, what I ate, how much I slept. And for me, what I figured out was my trigger was bright light early in the day. If I wake up and go out to the driveway, first thing, and I go to get the newspaper and the sun peeks up over the hill or over the skyline there, I'll get a little flash, and I'll know within a minute or two that I'm going to get a migraine. Because those of you that have migraines, you know, you got the aura where the lights kind of, you're seeing specks kind of come and go. It's not really comfortable. So then I figured this out, and I said, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to look at the sun on purpose, right? So I go out to the driveway in the morning, I put on sunglasses. Problem solved. But then somebody came into the room one morning, go to wake me up, and they flicked the light on. And it's dark in the room, it goes light, I wake up, okay, I'm gonna have a migraine in about 5 minutes. So finding out what your trigger is a big, big thing to avoid it. Once you have it, what do? I have not found a set of herbs or acupressure or any real techniques that can alleviate migraines for me. That doesn't mean you can't, I just haven't.
Peppermint.
Peppermint's another,
Yeah,
yep. Inhale it.
Yep.
Yep. You can do that for the sinuses, and you're saying you do it to help with migraines?
Yeah.
So there's some other,
We used to keep a peppermint tea bag.
huh? That's interesting. We got the liquid, just like the extracts like that at the house too. There's another one I'm thinking of. Cream of tartar. Cream of tartar? Steak tartare, cream of tartar, I'm mixing the two up. Got to add a little silliness into it, right? The cream of tartar, they say if you take a little bit of that when you feel a migraine coming on, that can help. Or an ice cube. Suck on an ice cube. So the whole thing with migraines, it's basically a mini stroke. It's a mini stroke.
There's drugs for migraine.
What, I'm sorry?
There are drugs for migraine.
A lot better drugs now.
Yes, but also again, you get into the side effects of them. Is it worth the side effects of fixing the problem that you have? So that's why I've tried to stay away from the hard pharmaceutical ones. I do have an emergency rizatriptan that I carry with me. If I'm driving somewhere, I'm out, I got to do it because it's so incapacitating to get it, where your eyes are trying to focus and you see these spots. So cream of tartar was one, like, what do you call it, a traditional remedy type thing, or sucking on an ice cube. Because the mini stroke, what's happening is you're having less blood flow to certain regions of your brain, and that's what they think is causing the migraine. But it's not on the level of a real stroke, it's just minute, enough to cause the problem of the headache. So the ice cube, in theory, you have so many sensory nerves in your mouth that you do the ice cube and it kind of draws the attention there. It's like, oh, that's so cold, and your mouth has to divert the circulation to different areas that the mini stroke isn't being affected by it as much. So does it work? I haven't tried it, but I've read about it and researched into it a little bit. See, this is the problem with me. I don't get them enough to get to practice it. I don't want to practice migraine practices, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not looking forward to the next one. So as long as I keep the light away, I'm usually good with that. So stress and tension is really the one that I wanted to discuss as far as techniques that you can do to help manage tension and stress headaches. So if you're getting headaches on a regular basis and they're not necessarily from these areas right here, tension and stress, it's like, again, those grandkids, they're great to have around, but if they're staying overnight, my gosh, they're gonna give me a headache at some point, right? Or, whatever gives you stress and tension. I'm imagining most of you aren't in the workforce as much these days, not to say you're not working, but maybe you don't have a boss or somebody, making you do stuff and perform. So where is your stress and tension coming from? If you can alleviate the source and the root, then you probably have a better chance of managing them. All of these are like root causes of having headaches. Eliminate the root, you're probably not going to get the headache. But we're talking about already being, you got them. I can't eliminate what caused it, I have them. So that gets us down to traditional Chinese medicine and the energy meridians. And what's our friend's name?
Bob?
We named him last time.
Biff.
Biff, best friend forever. Well, that's Dirk. Dirk's, we're best friends forever. But Biff has it going on because he's got all the lines on him. So last time I talked about it a little bit. We did some of the wrist exercises and hand exercises, and all these lines on the body correspond to different organs. And on the face and the head, I know it's a little far for some of you to see it, but there's all those different lines all up and down the body. So if you want to believe and buy into it, because I kind of say it that way, because in Western countries in the United States, Western medicine is the standard. So when you start talking about energy meridians and the herbs, it seems a little questionable for some people if they don't have the background or the information on it. So if you want to think of your whole body as an electrical circuit, we have a certain amount of electricity that our bodies produce. We know this. If you took chemistry, I hated it. I got an A though, hey, did good in chemistry. I just really didn't like it. But when you get down to the atomic level, subatomic level, everything's about negative and positive charges. So we are an electrical circuit. It is that way. If you get electrocuted, you touch the outlet, and there's a good chance you're going to stop your electrical circuit from working. So how do they get it going again? It's not by pumping your chest and doing the jolt with the defibrillator that evens out. You did the EMT, it evens out your heart rate. So I think they need to use drugs to get your heart beating again. So back to the original concept. Traditional Chinese medicine is based upon many things, but those energy meridians. If we want to overlap it with American medicine, Western medicine, you can say maybe it's the nerves. Some of the nerves line up in those spots. So we talk about pressure points. You hear about pressure points. You get hit right here, that's dangerous. You get hit in the throat, it's dangerous. You get hit in the groin, it's dangerous. It's like, oh, those are pressure points. Why are they pressure? What's the pressure doing? Well, maybe it's pressing on a nerve. You hit the nerves, you interrupt the nervous system. Or traditional Chinese medicine, you're interrupting the energy flow, the electricity in your body. So I've done this enough to know and studied it and researched it and felt it. I believe that is how it works. The energy system does work in that way. So if I'm going to show you some of these exercises, these are kind of like the ones from last month with the hands and the wrist and the fingers and that. Those were kind of on the like preventive maintenance, where you need to do them on a regular basis to get better mobility and better energy flow in that. The ones that I'm going to show you, these are like you got the headache. And it just hurts and it's miserable and you don't have access to getting some ibuprofen or aspirin or whatever you might normally do, and you just need some relief. So you manipulate your hands or your face and you get some relief from doing it. So it's a little bit more instant. It's not like the other ones where it's like, well, I need to do these hand things for months or years before I really start gaining the benefits. Some of you might have grabbed the sheet. I got a few of them left here if you want to grab on the way out. So we're going to do the front of this sheet. There's an order, we do them in order, and on the back, I broke them down individually. So I'm gonna go through these and show them to you and explain them to you. The easiest one to do though, right off the bat, is this one. And this is the one, like if you look on the internet, or you Google it and you say headache acupressure, we're doing pressure, not doing needles. That would be acupuncture. Same concept, no needles, use your fingers. This is the thing that comes up, that position of your hand. And I got to show it and explain it because you're like, can't see it, Jim. I don't know what you're talking about. I see the graphic, but what are we doing? So I'm going to face you for some of this, and then other things I might turn sideways or whatever the case may be. So your index finger has a meridian that connects all the way up, and it finishes like right about here on the opposite side of your nostril. So here, this is part of your sinuses. So this is one of the points too. But what we're doing here, the large intestine has something to do with your sinuses and with headaches. There's a connection there. So where your index finger comes in and meets your thumb, you got the soft squishy part in between there. If some of you have that graphic and you can see where it's at, that's the spot pushing in at the very base of your index finger when you can't go any further without touching your thumb. This would be touching my thumb. This is still on the index finger. So if I use, I'm going to turn around a bit here. If I use my thumb, I have a lot more strength to come across and pinch into that index finger. If I use it this way, that's kind of a weak position for my hand. If If you have issues with your thumb, then, you got to use a different finger. So I'm going to come over the top so I can grab with the 4 fingers and the thumb and see where I'm pinching in, and then I release. So this is a real good one to do, like if you're sitting in my class right now and I'm talking and giving you a headache, right? Jim, talking weird stuff. I'm getting a headache from listening to you. So you just kind of do this, and nobody even notices you're doing it. So what we also want to do is, with this parasympathetic nervous system, the way we can get from being stressed to the other side here where you're more relaxed is by managing your breathing. So we got to do that with this, because if you just pinch, it's going to hurt a little bit. It's like, oh, that hurts. That's a pressure point. Or it's a nerve. Or it's a meridian. Whatever way you want to look at it, it hurts. Doesn't really matter what the name of it is, it hurts. So when I start, I breathe in deep. And when I pinch, that's where I'm going to breathe out. The more it hurts with me pinching, the more of my attention is going to go towards that spot. And then I release it. Oh, the pain just went away. Then you do it again. You do it maybe 5 times, 10 times. You do as many times as you feel you want to do it. If you do it, say 20 times and you're not feeling much, then it might not be doing what it's supposed to be doing. And you can switch and do the other hand. So whenever you're doing these, you breathe in when you start. When it starts to hurt, you feel that strategic pain, that would be this one here, hormetic stress that you're putting on your body. You're making the pain happen. That's where you breathe out. So there's another thing that happens with our nervous system. You only have so many pathways that go from your body to your brain. It might be, say 10, it might be 100, 1,000, depends what part of the body it is. But you've often heard people get into like a car accident or something, and they don't realize they're injured, and their side's bleeding, and something might have punctured them, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know that happened. Or a gunshot wound. Some crazy situation happens and bullets are flying and someone didn't realize they got shot and their leg's bleeding. It's because their attention went to so many other things. The sensory input wasn't down here by what hurt. The sensory input was by other things going on. So when we start to do this, it's like I'm bringing my thought. My sensory input is coming from this pain right here. So I'm not really thinking about my headache as much. My parents used to say, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Most of you come from that age, I think, right? Parents would say stuff like that. So then you're like, gotta stop crying. You weren't thinking about the crying anymore. You were thinking about getting disciplined possibly from being, a nuisance or crying or whatever the case may be. So that's what we're doing here. I'm drawing my sensory attention to this pain in my hand, so my headache might seem less. Does that make sense? You have a choice between getting punched in the stomach or stubbing your toe. Oh, I don't like either of those choices. Yeah, but if you had to pick one, maybe the toe wouldn't be as bad as the stomach. So you divert your attention towards that. It's like you can selectively do this on some level. So that's the easiest one that I have found. It just kind of gets you in the ballpark to, okay, I'm getting a headache, don't have access to other means, I'm just gonna pinch, I'm gonna do the deep breathing. Hopefully it gets better after 5 to 10, maybe 20 times I pinch. All right, so that's the large intestine. And it comes all the way up to the opposite side of your nostril, right at the bottom here. So the reason I picked this one first, because again, it's kind of easy to remember. If you can remember this one, you might be able to remember this. So if you feel like you have a headache, pronounced in the front, a sinus headache perhaps, from allergies, you find on both sides of your nose, on both sides, and you just kind of do like a circle. You push in a little circle. And it would be the same thing. You breathe in. When it's time to massage, it's not nearly as painful as the hand, I think. But it still might be some pressure, especially if your sinuses are bothering you. And for some people, I've felt it, that'll feel like your sinuses are opening from pushing that particular spot. And then you stop doing it, it's like, I still feel it. It's like, we'll do it again. Maybe it only lasts for a couple times when you do it, but it is doing something to open up the sinuses, all right? So any of these are not 100%. Some people, they work great, others doesn't work much at all. So I'm just giving you the whole buffet of different things to try.
If you have a headache on one side of your head, is it the opposite side that you pinch?
I would do both sides. I'm not as I've been doing this for 40 years. I still not as versed to know with the meridians if one side would affect the other like that. Most of the meridians are bilateral, meaning you got them on both sides. And all these techniques that I've learned, you would always do them on both sides, regardless if one side or not was bothering you. Okay?
Place placebo control for any of these studies?
Yeah, there's tons of them. The placebo effect comes in back to the nervous system over here. If you're doing it and you feel calmer, you're breathing deep, maybe it's just the breathing, it's not even the pinching, and you feel better from doing it, okay, well, then it worked, right? Well, you want the scientific data. There are people that were in the studies and they did the papers and all those things. And it's like this group had the placebo, this group did the movements, and one felt better or worse. You'll find, good percentage of the people find that it works. Whether it's from them thinking it works or it really, working. What I found interesting, over my years, we had to do a lot of papers and a lot of research with citations and that. So what I found interesting when we got into the topics of the placebo was that the medical industry here in the US relies upon like 60-70% of our medical industry relies upon the placebo effect. So if your doctor has a white coat on, which pretty much they're going to have a jacket of some sort when they come in, you have optimism, the doctor is here. Whereas if it's maybe the nurse practitioner, assistant, or whoever, not as much. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm not seeing the doctor today. So that can affect your outcome. Leaving the office, you feel better or worse. They found that the suggestion from doctors of certain medications, your doctor says, take ibuprofen for those headaches. They're great. They work really good. You go home with the expectation it's going to help you. If he would have said, take ginger root, you'd probably feel good and it's going to help you too. So the medical industry in the US relies very heavily on the placebo effect. So don't discount it. I do it with my Tai Chi class. It's like, oh, you guys feel great. You're doing this. You're going to feel great from moving and doing the gentle stretching and deep breathing. Most people feel good at the end of the class. Thing is, some people do 90% effort and other people do 20% effort. But regardless, they're all going to say they feel good from doing something. So placebo effect's a good topic. Any other questions before we go on to the next ones? Because the next ones are all on the face. So here we go. Number one is this point right here between your nose and your lip. This one really doesn't overlap with a major nerve. You got nerves in your face, so it's not like I can say, well, that's a nerve. But geez, does that one hurt? This is the spot that we use to knock somebody out, to cause unconsciousness in self-defense, martial arts, law enforcement. You touch somebody here, it hurts. If you hit somebody there, good chance they're going to lose consciousness. So for us, if somebody actually is unconscious, this is what we would do over the years to help somebody wake up. It's like they fainted, they were stressed, they were traumatized, they exercised too hard, they passed out. Massaging the spot side to side and up on a 45-degree angle. Should not feel comfortable. It should feel, again, annoying, uncomfortable. That's kind of like where your attention goes. It's like, I'm not thinking about my headache right now. My lip really hurts from rubbing it. Again, you kind of take the attention away from the other area. This particular spot right here is on the center line. It's all the way down the front, all the way up the back. There's no major nerves that I know that are on that center line. So is it a pressure point? Well, what's the pressure? It's hitting our energy meridian. And it's not necessarily a nerve. So that's number one. Number two, on the inside of the eyebrow, on the very closest part, the eyebrow, to where you would come down into like your eye socket right here. This one goes up and down. So this one's the bladder meridian. So I can use like the pad of my finger and I massage it up and down. So the bladder meridian goes from this spot, starts right there, over the top of the head, all the way down to your toe, down to your little toe. It's the longest meridian in the body, and consequently it affects many, many different things with our health. There's a spot on the back of your calf that you can use for restless leg syndrome. It's like, wow, headaches up here, restless leg syndrome down here, all along the back. It affects different organs. It's a very, very powerful meridian. They all are, but the bladder meridian's the longest one. So on the sheet there's little lettering next to it. It'll be abbreviated like S. S means sideways. UD means up and down. So this one is up and down. So why does that matter? Because getting a different angle can affect that nerve or that meridian or that pressure point, whatever you want to call it, in a different way. So this was 1. This is 2. The third one, if you were able to look in a mirror right now, I know there's no mirror right in front of you, but the center of your eye where the pupil is, if you go from that spot up to the bone of your eye socket, they call that the occipital, or was that the orbital ridge, I believe. There's a nerve there. There's a nerve that comes to that spot that comes from your ear here. This is called the trigeminal nerve. Tri goes in 3 directions. So people that have issues with their jaw, like TMJ, or they don't chew their food good sometimes, they get the TMJ syndrome. That'll cause headaches because that nerve, one branch of it goes to the top of your eye, another branch goes towards your top jaw with your teeth, the bottom one goes to the bottom jaw, the bottom teeth, the trigeminal nerve. So that spot right there, when you get home, you look in the mirror, find your pupil, find where the ridge of your eye is, on that ridge of that eye socket, and you do that one side to side. And you might even feel like a little bump. And what it is, there's a little hole there, and that nerve goes through that little hole. It's pretty cool. When you look at it, it's like, oh. So I'm massaging the nerve. That one's the nerve. You're massaging the nerve. The other one, there's no nerve there. It's the meridian. This one, there's no nerve there. It's the meridian. So again, it doesn't really matter what it is. It gives you some relief. So I keep restating these. We got 1, 2, 3. One that I find is like this is the one that makes a big difference. Take like 2 fingers and at the edge of your eye, that's the temple region. It's a little softer right there, and there's a divot. And you go not just from like the corner of your eye, but maybe a little bit up. And you notice like when you wear glasses, that part of the glasses frame is called the temple. It covers the temple. It covers that exact spot. It doesn't cover the side of your eye. It's a little bit up. So if you take your 2 fingers and you rub in like a circular motion about the size of a quarter, we don't use half dollars anymore, right? You can't use a half dollar. Those are never used anymore. It's got to be a quarter. Use your favorite coin of choice, but make the circle big enough you can kind of feel it, you know. That one I've noticed the most, like when I have tension, it really makes a difference. And I would do the same thing. I'm not really going to feel a lot of pain on that one. You don't want to squeeze enough to feel pain on that point. But if I do the breathing in, and then when I'm pushing and circling, breathing out. So this set right here that we're doing, it's not as easy to do candidly. Discreetly is the word I'm looking for. This one I can be very discreet. Pinch. It's called large intestine 4. That one that we were pinching, or Hegu, H-E-G-U, Hegu 4. That one very discreet. Nobody would even know that I got a headache and I'm doing that. This one, I can be discreet doing that one. This one, I can get away with it a couple times. This one, not so much, you know. This one, everybody knows I got a headache. Everybody knows I got something going on if I'm twirling my temples, right? So that's 4. 5 is below the chin. So you have a divot, usually from where the bottom of the lip intersects like the fatty tissue or the skin, I guess, below the lip. There's a cleft, I guess, or what would we call that? Ridge, cleft. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? So look how I do this one. I use my thumb under my chin, and then I pinch that cleft. And I go again, side to side. And that's like the look like you're thinking, right? So even though this one helps my headaches, I can do this one discreetly. And it's like, oh, I'm thinking. But I'm really massaging that point. So that's number 5. Number 6 will attract attention. That meridian on the center line, it goes down the center, up the back, the very top of your skull where all the bones come together. When you're a child, an infant, all the bones come together at that top point. You tap it. You do about 10 of them. You might be able to get away with it if you do it real quick. You know, you're tapping your head. What's wrong? Oh, nothing. I'm done. It only took a couple seconds, but it still might draw a little attention. Why do I bring this up with the attention and that? Who cares, right? Sometimes you're in a certain atmosphere or audience and you just don't want people to know that you're having a little struggle going on. Would you want everybody to know that you're going to pass out in 5 seconds? So no, it's like I'm going to do this, and this will kind of wake me up a little bit. I'm not as likely to pass out. I'm touching that point. You get the idea, right? If you want to be discreet, you can be discreet. So that was 6. 7 goes back to the center line right here. So there's a bunch of them on the center line, because the center line is very connected, again, to all the different parts of your body, with the nervous system and more specifically those energy meridians with the organs. So this one goes up and down right at the bridge of the nose. Again, you can do this about 5 to 10 times. The goal is really to do the set. Any one of them might help you, give you some relief from the headache, but do the set if you can, get through the sequence of them. So that was 7. 8 and 9, we go to our hands. So when I started this, and I was talking about this one being like a really important spot because it can help revive somebody if they're unconscious or prevent you from fainting if you're feeling like you're about to faint. You can help somebody, you can help yourself. That spot is very important. These on the hand are also very good for consciousness. If you pass out, you can't do it on yourself, right? You gotta do it before you pass out, or I'm feeling faint. Or you help somebody else. I've done these, I don't know, probably 100 or so times on different people that have had issues around me and my surroundings. So this one, we start at the heel of the hand, the base by the wrist, and we squeeze down. See how the palm kind of relaxes and the fingers turn red? So this happens to line up with the median nerve. You got the main nerves of the arm, the median and the ulnar nerve that are in your arm. So you could say this is actually stimulating or relaxing the median nerve. Traditional Chinese medicine says that that's the pericardium, the sac that protects your heart. The heart has connections to your brain. It's all connected, okay? So we squeeze and relax the palm. Here's the deep inhale. There's the exhale. Again, this is pretty discreet. You can get away with just doing this. Nobody even noticed you're doing it. Do it 5 to 10 times with the deep breathing. The deep breathing might be enough to give you some relief. Doing the extra pressure on the hand, it's definitely going to help in some way. That's also for stomach issues. That has a connection to the stomach. So while I talk about traditional Chinese medicine having the meridians, it's very defined. 5 fingers. There's actually 6 meridians on the hand. Some of the other systems of Eastern thought don't look at it so much as meridians, but they look at it as regions. And I'm guessing some of you know about reflexology, different parts of the hands and feet connect to the organs and that. So they look at it more as regions. The center of your palm is a reflection of the center of your torso. So massaging the center of the palms is good for anything that's kind of upset stomach, heartburn, maybe anxiety, things like that. If we went to the fingertips, which is the next one, if this was the center of the body, you're moving away, each of these would be limbs. So you get to the end, those are limbs, reflect. The very tips are the head, and the eyes. I know this looks, you're trying to envision this. There are charts that you can look up and find in books that show you the whole map. So the one that we're going to do now is the tip of each finger. We did this last month a little bit. You pinch with your nail in the soft part of the center of the finger, and it ends up being like a little divot there from the pressure. And that's a nerve ending too. You got nerves on the sides of your finger. So again, am I stimulating the nerves or am I stimulating the meridians? So you go from the pinky finger, you go to the ring finger. You see how I do it enough to get that divot. You can see a little divot. I know you all got great eyesight. You can see the little microscopic things across the room, right? See a little divot, It only lasts for a second or two, and then the flesh goes back. And you just work your way to each finger. Each finger, you do the same thing. Deep breath, pinch each finger. So for some people, that will wake them up. That little pinch is enough of nerve stimulation and energy stimulation. Either way, it kind of makes you alert. So that's number 9. 1, again, it's on the sheet, so you got a little cheat sheet to take with you. 2, 3, 4, I think that's my favorite, 5, 6, anybody home? 7, 8, and you do both hands. You would do both hands bilateral. 9, fingertips, all the way to the thumb. 10, we stop at 10. I think I got 10 on the sheet, didn't I? 8, 9, 10, is the base of the jaw. And again, that's part of where that trigeminal nerve is at. So the nerve, I think, is a cluster, and it's actually a little bit higher, more towards the opening in the ear. But we'll go at the base of the jaw, and again, circle about so big, maybe like a $50 would have been, and try to relax. Breathe deep, and breathe out as you do it. So there are, like I said, a lot of times people have jaw issues, the TMJ syndrome, the tight muscles in their jaw, and those muscles not only are in the jaw, but they connect up into the skull here. So there's tension coming from their jaw that affects the muscles, which affects the blood from the circulation of the veins and arteries that are in your brain. All connected. So even though you're doing something over here, it's like, well, how does it connect over there? Because it's all connected. And that's the theme of holistic medicine. It's not part medicine, it's whole, everything whole. Western medicine, also called allopathic medicine. It's supposed to be all included, but go to your doctor and they'll treat your toe specifically. They're going to treat your headache, medicine up here. They're going to treat your sore shoulder with something for over here. With holistic, we try to do everything together. Okay? Anybody have questions? We got, I don't know, a little bit of time, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So.
How long would you do these individual things, like 10 seconds? 30 seconds?
I would go with the repetition and try to do anywhere from like 5 to 10 of whatever the particular one is.
How many seconds would you do this?
So this would be at about this speed, because now I'm managing it in relation to my breath. So if I'm going to do 5 repetitions, it would be 5 breaths. I wouldn't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would do it, again, the calming thing might be the placebo part of what's helping you. The calming breath, that's 1. 2, breathe in, do the pinch and breathe out. So depending upon how slow you go, slow is better when it comes to breathing. We don't want fast, rapid. I could do 5 breaths and take that could take me a minute to do 5 breaths. Most people, just on the average, just sitting, breathing, doing whatever, are somewhere in the 12 to 15 breaths per minute without thinking about it. As soon as you start to think about your breathing, it usually drops considerably. You can get it down to 10 just by, oh, I have to think about my breathing now. If you're really active and doing like what we're doing, you can get it down to 5 to 6 breaths per minute very easily, which affects your parasympathetic nervous system, which takes away the stress and the anxiety, which can manifest in the headaches. It's all connected. The breathing is really the key. The breathing is the hack. You know, hack, when I was a kid, hack meant hit, right? Now hack means shortcut or doing something bad to someone's computer, right? And it's like hack, right? But that too, doing something bad to someone's computer really means it's a shortcut. They're using a means to get into somebody's computer, right? So we're hacking our nervous system when we manage our breathing. We're hacking our nervous system when we're managing these pressure points or these nerve endings or these energy meridians. It's a hack, it's a shortcut. It doesn't fix the problem, because if you're already over here, there's a reason why it's there. That's the root. That's not the symptom. Those are the root problems. What were you going to ask?
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you heard of an optical migraine?
Can you be more specific?
Oh, it's where you get this is what the eye doctor said, you get a little no, it's like a little, what would you call it, like a little lightning bolt in your eye. It's called an optical migraine.
I have not heard of that.
Okay. But
Aura?
I've gotten them before.
Very familiar with the aura. I know what the aura is, so.
I've gotten them a couple times.
It doesn't hurt. It just,
Yeah, I've had
No,
those.
it doesn't hurt. It goes away in
It goes away,
15 minutes,
yeah.
but
I never knew what it was.
I've heard it's an
The eye
optical.
doctor
That's what
was
the
scared.
eye doctor said. It's an optical.
Optical migraine?
Yeah, And I don't know what causes it. It just sometimes you're watching TV and it comes in.
You've had this.
I've had it like 3 times, yeah.
So this brings up an interesting point here. You ask if we're familiar with that. A lot of health issues, you don't become familiar with them until you have them.
Yeah, that's true.
Or you know somebody, your family member, you know, somebody you're friends with, you have no reason to. It's like, that doesn't bother me. But then as soon as it does, now you start to become an expert on it.
Yeah.
You
It
should.
does go away, though.
If it's your health, you should become more of an expert on knowing what that problem is.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm giving you my advice that I think, you know, geez, you know, you got arthritis. Maybe you want to know more about arthritis.
Right.
So, what was your question?
It's not a question. I took a course in acupressure, and there were 2 points that I thought people might like to think about.
Sure, sure,
You have
please.
sinus headaches, and they involve using your thumbs at the base of the nose. You use your thumbs and you push up hard. And if you have a sinus headache, you'll know you're in the right spot.
Can you speak louder? We have folks over here that we're not being
I'm
able to hear
talking
you.
about sinus headaches.
That's that same spot, by the way. Just working on there, yeah.
You will know it because you push hard and you will feel pain. And you keep rotating in a circle and keep doing it as long as you can stand it, and then hopefully it'll go away, and keep doing it. It works.
That's the same idea as the lung or the large intestine one. You're just highlighting more detail with it. So,
You're using your
Yep.
thumbs and you're really making it hurt. And if you have a headache and you're not sure, it might be a sinus headache. If you just explore your sinuses and push hard along your eyebrows, if you have pain, you have a sinus headache. So you may as well do that. And there are 2 areas, the ones right in the middle of your eyebrows, but the idea was to use your thumbs and push up really hard in circles and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and maybe for a minute and wait, just take a break and do it again until it stops.
you're bringing more attention to the same areas with using more pressure, which is good. I do a little more on the light version with our group, just because you don't want to cause so much pain it turns people off to, it's like, oh my gosh, is it worse than the cure? It's like my face is all black and blue now because I pushed so hard. Obviously you don't want to get to that point, but like when I start out saying like the breathing is very important with it, the breathing is what helps you overcome the pain that you're feeling when you do the pinch or the push or the manipulation. If you don't do that, it's even like more challenging, more miserable. So breathe deep and do the exhale as you're creating more of that pressure for whatever the part of the body is.
The other thing they mentioned was to use this point as a reinforcement for any point that you're using. So I don't know if that's something you've...
I start off with that one saying that's a good one. It's easy to remember in that. So you can do a little more research on it, but most of the acupressure points on the body, it coincides with the years, the days in the year rather. So there's 365 days in the year. There's theoretically 365 pressure points, acupressure points on the body. Ayurveda, the Indian practice, is very similar to traditional Chinese medicine. They think it's somewhere more like 72,000. Like every part of your body is a pressure point. Every part of it has an energy node, if you will, to it. I like the traditional Chinese medicine version better. It makes more sense to me. There's 12 meridians, coincides with the 12 months of the year, 365 points, 365 days in the year. There's a reason why we can connect numbers to like everything, and justify, well, it's that way because these numbers line up. The more you do some of the research into it, and I think some of it helps us to remember. It's like a system that helps you remember like how many there are, where they should be, and things like that. Am I going to remember all 365? No. I'm good if I can remember the handful of them that I use, and I know what they do. So you can always go further with it. But those are the main ones that I know. You added a little more detail to those, I think.
Consider a pressure point, but for people that have tension headaches, running your thumbs along the base of your skull really helps also.
So the set I showed you folks, there's 10 on that sheet. There's another 8 that go with this, and they're on other parts of the body. I wanted to keep it a little more confined, condensed to the face for what we were doing. Maybe one of the next times we can cover some of the other ones. The total of 18 of them gets other parts of your body involved. They're your calves and your toes and things like that. Anybody? Yes, because we got to finish up.
Starting about 5 years ago, I started to experience gustatory rhinitis. What is gustatory rhinitis? After I eat, my nose runs.
No.
Even after I brush my teeth or something as harmless as cereal. So I've told my VA physician, if this is the worst problem I have, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I'll try your herbs.
Yeah.
They work out.
Yeah. You can't.
Cleans out your sinuses if you're doing it, right?
Which ones?
If he's eating and his nose runs afterwards, it's cleaning out his sinuses.
That's a possible theory. There's a reason it's happening. It's not just part of the system breaking down.
5 years ago,
Yeah. So we should finish up. If you have any questions, please stay after. I usually stay for 5-10 minutes afterwards. Next month, I don't know how much we're continuing this. I have enough content to do it for a very long time. But next month, we're going to specifically talk about balance. 3 types of balance. Vestibular balance, which has to do with your inner ear and how to maintain a bit of how to maintain your inner ear with diet and things like that, because your inner ear affects your vestibular system, which is kind of like your GPS to how your body positions when you walk. The other type of balance is just structural. Most people favor one side of their body from years of sitting a certain way or being right-handed. That will affect your balance as you walk and have stability in your tasks. And then the third balance is more internal, how you think about things. If you think about your body out here, you got to be thinking about what's going on up here. They work together. So 3 types of balance we'll be discussing at the next talk, and then I need to leave it up to the university club if they want me to continue doing these. So.
Sure, I'll talk to you about what you want to do for, let's see, we're up to September, I guess November.
Yep.
What the topic will be so that I can get the flyers out and stuff.
Oh, one other quick thing on the balance. A few people have expressed an interest to learn how to fall. Okay, there's certain things that go into falling. It's like, well, I'm going to make sure all these chairs are out of the way so I don't fall. Or I'm going to make sure there's no things on, nothing on the floor at my home so I don't trip. So that's fine, but that doesn't help you if you go somewhere else or you go visit somewhere. You're out of town, you're somewhere else. It's like you don't always have control over that stuff. So that next level of balance is you. You take you where you go, so hopefully your balance is better. The next thing with balance that some people have asked about was falling. How do I fall? I'm going to fall. Eventually, someday it's going to happen. So there was an article in, I don't know if it was a Wall Street Journal or something else last week, that they were talking about people learning how to fall. A class with older individuals afraid of falling, getting on mats, learning how to actually, fall. You have a choice. You can kind of learn it and maybe it's uncomfortable and it's like, oh, this is weird, something new, I might get bruised up. Or the alternative is, we all probably know somebody that's at a certain age or level of health where they've fallen and they injure their hip, break their wrist, and usually it's a spiral downward of their health. Once you start breaking things when you fall, you have less of a confidence that you can do other things, and your health oftentimes will deteriorate. So if you would like to learn how to fall, maybe make that come back to Jeannie or the powers that be here at the University Club. We got to do something with mats. It's got to be a safe environment. We're not going to, we learned how to fall on hard surfaces. We did have mats, but we also did, we fell on concrete and tile. It was not fun. But once you learn how to do it without, I'll take a bruise over a break any day. I'll take a broken wrist over a fractured hip. So you kind of start to get into different, thoughts like, well, maybe I should learn this type of thing. So.
Jim, we learned that like 40 years ago when we were younger,
Yeah.
But I was in Wisconsin about 10 years ago, coming off my dad's porch. It was all ice up there, and I just flat out, went down right on the stairs. But all that training, it just came up. My head was lifted, my body went to an angle, it was 45 degrees.
We've been fortunate to have the muscle memory from starting at a young age with these things. I've been trying to get people involved. I've been trying to get people involved in learning these things and the physical aspects of this, for literally the 40 years that I've been doing this. But there's a big difference when you're 19 years old and you're showing somebody, physical techniques and exercises to be better, and compared to when you're 60 years old and now we're in the room, we're in the club, we're getting older. It's like, well, maybe this stuff does work. But you got to do it. You got to learn it. You got to do it. So again, if you have questions, stay after, please. Thank you for coming. Look forward to seeing you all next time. So take care.